confirm. Good morning, brothers and sisters. Happy Sunday. What's up, Kevin? 55 on Tuesday, Twice Dead Mage, and I know my beautiful, lovely Mother Doom is watching as well right now. Good morning. Good morning to everybody. Speaking of Mother Doom, by the way, I get married in 1 day less than 3 weeks. Yeah, yesterday it was exactly 3 weeks until I get married, which is pretty crazy. Like, it feels like I was just talking about this with Erin the other day. It just feels like yesterday we were going to like get her ring like sized, and now we've been on a trip and proposed and have done a year of being engaged, and she's out of grad school and our wedding's happening. It's crazy. It's crazy. Life's just advancing so fast. But Kevin's somewhat productive. Yeah, a little bit, just a little bit. But it's been a crazy year, and it's been so crazy, in fact, I haven't really even been able to enjoy. Well, I say enjoy. I haven't really even been playing. Even if I did have time, I don't know if I'd play it. But I haven't played as much Warhammer 40k as I used to. I did not always used to be so into RPGs. I used to be into something called a tabletop war game, which in this little window I've got here on the screen where to let y'all know what we're doing here today, because I knew I would forget to start that way. So let me go back and say, brothers and sisters, welcome to the Church of Doom. My name is Landon Gus. I am a very enthusiastic, passionate RPG player who likes to stream and talk about all kinds of cool ideas, and whatever pops into my head about the game, I like to share with everybody who tunes in and joins the church. And today, we're gathered here today to flip through a Warhammer 40k tabletop war game, or TTWG. I actually don't think anybody says TTWG anywhere. I don't know why I use that acronym, but I did. But we're here to flip through this codex, or it's basically the same thing as like the player handbook, but for Warhammer 40k. Like, it's just the rules you need as a player to enjoy the game. So we're going to flip through this and pull out as many cool RPG ideas as we possibly can. And when I say we're pulling out RPG ideas, it's like we're not going to flip to a specific magic item and be like, how do we make this a 5e magic item? No. If you just see like maybe you see something right here, like boom, maybe this weird crazy axe was the first thing you saw. You're just like, that's fucking sick. Like, whoa, that's awesome. This skull, and like, I wonder what these power cables do. Is it a power axe? That's what they're called. But like, what does that mean? What kind of power does this thing have, right? That's just the kind of like chill, creative conversation we're gonna have today as we flip through the book. So as you see cool ideas, as there's things that like catch your eye, shout them out in chat, and we can kind of stop and talk through them in more detail if I think there's something cool there, if I think there's a seed to be planted for an idea. Yeah, that's what we're here to do today. So let me go ahead and hide that image on here so we don't have to stare at that the whole time. Sweet. And then let me get my chat pulled out a little bit bigger so I can actually see what everybody's saying. Close that poll. There we go. Okay. What's Twice Dead Mage? Real fast, just seeing what you were saying before we jumped into things. I've been wishing to play Old World. Really? Sorry. There actually is one other thing I wanted to say. And that is to connect this to role-playing games, because I'm sure a lot of you, I realize I have near vision. I don't need my glasses right now. A lot of you are probably thinking, what the hell? This was a role-playing game channel. I used to play, like, this guy used to put out ideas about character concepts for D&D, and now we're flipping through an RPG or a tabletop war game book. Where's the value in that? Let me tell you. Everything you experience every day can be an excuse to play Dungeons and Dragons, if you allow it to be. Everything can inspire you with new ideas, new concepts, new things to work into your game. And it doesn't mean, again, today is not about making rules. Today's purely about just letting an idea come into your head and then following it. Today's about chasing the rabbit down the rabbit hole, essentially. It's about giving yourself permission to brainstorm. Because I don't know, I feel like my life is just so different, I think, from the average person's on a day-to-day basis. I think about D&D literally like all day, every day. And there's part of that I'm talking with my therapist about in therapy, but there's another part of that I think is really cool. And I think it's really healthy, and I want to share it with you all. And that is just this ability to absorb cool concepts and content that maybe you don't enjoy on a very direct or personal level, but that doesn't mean there isn't value to be found within the idea itself that can find its way to your table. I hope that made sense. Kind of a crazy little ramble there. But yeah, that is what we're doing today. We're flipping through here to find ideas that even though they're from a totally different type of game, we can still find cool things to work into our RPG. That's not a new concept. Everybody's been like, go watch a movie, go read a book, blah, blah, like steal from your favorite things. We all do that, but I guess I haven't seen anybody like do it, Like I've never seen anybody do it in a video where they're like, let's look at this weird thing that has nothing to do with D&D and pull ideas. So that's what I'm hoping we get out of this, and I am by no means a lore expert, so if I get things wrong about the Warhammer 40k universe, sue me. I just like to buy cool minis and paint them. So, all right, let's get into it. Real quick, answering a question from Zyrak, though. Do you plan to publish videos again, or will you do live streams only for now? Just wondering. Good question. I do plan on publishing videos again. I just get married in 3 weeks, and it's like, once that's done, which me and Aaron laugh about this. It keeps getting said in that kind of context. Once we're past the wedding, once the wedding's over, once we're done, it's like, we can't wait to be married. But there will just be a huge weight off of our shoulders when the wedding is over, both financially and time-wise. So that will be nice, and then I'll be able to put a little more energy, Zyrak, into actually like getting on a more regular video content publishing schedule. You should go check out, though, there's this channel I've been obsessed with, Man Alone. Actually, you know what? I can show you right now, because it deserves a plug. Where the heck did it go? Oh, crap. I'm set up between like 3 different monitors right now, and I cannot find where that screen just went that has Google. So just go search on YouTube, Man Alone. He's a solo RPG channel, and he just does kind of what I do. Like he'll start a live recording, but I don't think he streams to anybody. I think it's just him like talking to himself, which I think is really cool. I actually might start trying to do a little bit more of that to release more regular videos, but I really like his channel. I really like what he's doing, and I think if you like what I do, then you should go watch him, because I just can't get enough of him, and I hope he keeps putting out more videos. So anyways, how long have we been going here before we've even gotten into opening the first page? I have no idea, but probably almost 8 minutes here we've been talking without even opening the book. So why don't we jump into things, brothers and sisters, and let us pray for the 41st millennium where there is only war. So I don't know if this gives an introduction to Warhammer 40k, actually, so let me do that real quick. So Warhammer 40k, I've talked about it on stream a bit in the past. This is going to be a really quick summary. I won't allow myself to get too distracted here, but Warhammer 40k is it's a tabletop war game taking place in a universe 40,000 years in the future. The 41st millennium, or 400,000 years? Is that what a millennium is? No, that's a century. 400,000. Yeah, so that's just 40,000 years in the future. See, like I said, I'm not a lore expert, nor am I clearly a math expert. But it's this very grim, dark future setting where there is only war. Humanity almost conquered the stars. Then a civil war erupted between the like super soldier space marine armies. That's what these guys are, space marines. These guys were the ones who almost conquered the universe. They then fought amongst themselves, and now humanity is just in this constant cycle of almost getting destroyed by aliens or almost destroying themselves, but then by a miraculous feat because of the Emperor of Mankind's blessing, who's like the god in this universe of mankind, he saves them, and they get to keep doing their thing. That's a very, very rough introduction to the setting, but all you really need to know is it is in space. There are spaceships, there are aliens, there are demons, and these space marines are the good guys. They're not the good guys. There is so much evil and horrible stuff that goes on in this setting, which is why I think it's so interesting and so fun to like build things within and tell stories in. But yeah, so that's kind of why I was drawn to them, though. I think it's like, ooh, they're the Black Templars. These guys are like the not Arthurian Knights. They're the Crusaders, obviously. What am I talking about? Templar. They are, what if the Crusades happened 40,000 years in the future, except instead of being on horses and having swords, they had, Thunderhawk gunships, and they had chain swords and giant bolt guns that shoot explosive ammunition. That's what we're talking about here. And if you go down the 40k rabbit hole, you can get into all kinds of crazy. I mean, obviously, even the topic of the Crusade already starts to bring in kind of like, ooh, that's like some touchy. There's some not great concepts in there. So you got to be that if you just throw yourself into the game without any sort of warning, you might stumble across something where you're like, that's weird. That is not. This is a game, right? It's just like D&D. There's like weird pockets of D&D all over the internet that you can accidentally stumble into that might spoil a game for you. So don't let that happen to you with 40K. But I think with enough context there from that, and I haven't seen any comments in the chat saying I've messed it up too much. Let's move on to the Black Templars. So we are the flame that leaps from the brazier's heart. We are the inescapable blade of vengeance. We are the oath-sworn and the unmerciful, the heretic, the mutant, the alien, and the unbeliever. We bring judgment to all. We are the Black Templars, and in the name of the Holy God Emperor, we bring death. Oh, that is, like, as I was reading that, I was like, this is why I loved this game. Like, and I hope you guys can see where I get so much of my own inspiration for my, like, world of Urchin and all that kind of stuff, but I want people who, all 21 of you who are here with me right now on Sunday, which, by the way, thank you. That's so cool. Right now in chat, drop an idea. What's the first thing that jumped to your mind? When I was reading this, I want, and force yourself to do this. And you don't have to put it in chat or whatever. Put it in your notes app. I don't care about the engagement. But I just want you to do this exercise. I want you to actually get something out of this. To come up with an RPG idea out of that for your setting. This is my setting in so many ways, but I'll do the same right here. The first thing that kind of jumped out to me was the unbeliever, because I've mentioned in a lot of my writings and things as I've been making my world, things about like heretics, mutants, and aliens or xenos and things like that. The unbeliever, though, what is the difference between the heretic and, the heretic, I guess, actually is the one who manipulates. I see the heretic as the one who takes like a doctrine or a gospel or whatever, that's very Christian oriented. It takes the teachings of whatever fantasy temple you have, and the heretic warps it or changes it to either their own ends, their own means, right? Or they see it in a false way or something like that. That's what a heretic is. Whereas an unbeliever is just like, that's not true. And I don't, or that, I don't believe in that. I believe in this totally different thing. The heretic, I think a heretic is probably closer aligned to a true believer than an unbeliever is. So I guess I don't know if that's an RPG idea per se, but that is just one of the first things that jumped out to me in my mind. So maybe in the setting of Urchin in my world, heretic and cultist might be a very interchangeable word. If the players show up in a town, my world doesn't have a ton of towns, but if my players show up in a community, then there might be cultists in that community, but the people of the town might also talk about them as heretics. Like the people of the town who join the cult, they have been converted. They're the heretics. So you've got your cultists, you've got the heretics that are kind of a part of the group. I'm chasing this rabbit hole pretty deep with this idea. Like, whatever, am I really going to be able to think about it this much at the table with my players or whatever? Probably not, but doing it here is the value in that. So let's see what ideas y'all got. Let's see. Ooh, also been talking so long, I got some hiccups. Let's see. Cause King 555 tossed in here saying the Black Templars, the paladins that do crusades before the first crusades ends. That do crusades before the first crusade ends. Whoa. Is that interesting? So you're saying in your setting, the Black Templars, they were the like original, they do the crusades before the first crusades end. Also, am I just lagging? I just was looking at my screen and it looked like I might have been lagging a little bit. Let me know if I need to check anything. Cos King, I'm a little confused with that idea, so I'm sorry. I'm gonna have to move on to the next one. Zyrax said the Blade of Vengeance sounds like an interesting mythical weapon to base a story arc around. The Blade of Vengeance. Ooh, I just had an idea. For the Blade of Vengeance is a cursed magical item. It is a bastard's executioner sword or something cool like that. Very Game of Thrones-esque maybe. Or even, here, let's flip to the next page, right? Let's look at this. Boom, there we go. This is, I think it's called the Sword of Judgment in the Black Templars, but in an RPG, maybe this is the Sword of Vengeance, and it is said whoever wields this sword, it is a certainty, or it is guaranteed, or I don't know how you can make that sound better, but it is a guarantee that they will kill whoever it is who has wronged them. It just like, all you have to do maybe is deliver a hit with this weapon. If it's so much as grazes the flesh of your foe, this sworn foe, who maybe you have to like etch their name into the blade's hilt. Like maybe that's what that is right there. You have to etch the name of the wrongdoer with your own blood into the blade. Then you hit them once they're dead. But the curse is this blade, once that person's dead, it will always inevitably, maybe in like the way of the One Ring, where it doesn't just like disappear and appear somewhere else. It organically finds its way into somebody else's possession. It could be that way, or it could just be you sheath it, and when you go to unsheath it, it's gone. But maybe the sword, it will always find its way into the hands of someone related to or had a close relationship with the person you killed, because then that person might come after you for vengeance. So you'll have this magic sword that will kill your enemy. There's like a guarantee of that. But there's also a pretty strong guarantee that you're gonna die, because that person's loved one, their lieutenant, their child, their whatever, is gonna come after you with that same weapon. That would be cool. Thanks for dropping that one in there, Zyrak. Twisted Mage said, heretics are those that believe in the same religion you believe. Unbelievers are those outside your religion. Yeah, exactly. What's up, Colin Lee? Howdy. Josiah said, what if you took the first line completely literally? Oh yeah, let me jump back here. So the first line completely literally, like people made of fire or are on fire that literally live in braziers. Ooh, let's read that line again. Oh, also I had, so you don't have to see my ugly fingers and fingernails all the time. I've got my little dry brushing chisel paintbrush that I clearly have never used. Okay, so we are the flame that leaps from the brazier's heart. Ooh. Yeah, I like that, Josiah. That's cool. In my mind, I'm thinking that's what elementals are. It sounds like maybe you're talking about like what are the elemental player races in 5e called? Why can't I not remember what they're called? Oh my gosh, what the heck are they called? Anyways, you're talking about maybe like a genie or something like that. Genasi. Thank you. That's what I was thinking of. You're talking about maybe Genasi, but in my mind, I'm thinking, ooh, what if it was like there was oh my gosh, I'm getting so many different names all mixed up in my head all of a sudden. Gaia, that idea, that myth of the creator goddess or whatever, maybe it said that her heart is a volcano, and when it beats, or when she becomes, when Gaia is enraged, or when she's scared and her heart can flutter or something, it literally erupts these fire elementals into the world, and they leap from the brazier's heart. So you could just change that to from the world's heart or something. Yeah, really, really cool. Fun little path you took me down there, Josiah. Thank you. Kevin, with the line, in the name of the holy god emperor we bring death, makes me think of a monotheistic following that is willing to kill for their beliefs. Yeah, I mean, that is exactly what it is. And that has inspired a lot of my D&D, that has inspired a lot of my RPG setting of Urchin, where there is the god queen and there's the god king. And both, you either worship the queen or you worship the king, or you worship some weird alien old one Cthulhu-esque god that he and she do not acknowledge the existence of in a lot of ways. It's like, no, I'm the only one who exists. It's either me or my treacherous, husband. It's very like kind of Greek mythology inspired in that way too. Like the he and she, which those terms were taken from Morkborg, but they are a metaphorical and literal gods of the universe, but they're a king and a queen too. So you can play into that relationship with them. Just like how Zeus, would come to the mortal world and have, well, I guess that's maybe that's a bad example because he's interacting with the world. Like how the pantheon of the Greek gods interacts with each other. I just think that's really cool. And they interact with each other outside of grand, huge conflicts and wars. In a lot of RPGs, it seems like, or it feels like a lot of times gods only interact in a cataclysmic way or in a very like tense way, but not like like not just partying with Dionysus or something like that. That's a cool idea. Wow, we went from Black Templars, we're talking about Warhammer 40k, to having a party with Dionysus and the Greek gods. What the hell are we talking about? Let's get focused up. Okay. TPK Terrain, what's up, Grandfather Doom? In your world, I can see Crusaders as traveling preacher shows. They roam Urchin, preaching the word to every small community they come upon, like in the U.S. in the early 1900s. Yeah. Ooh. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Wow. And thinking about Black Templars, and again, this I'm very much in the mindset of Warhammer 40k, grim dark. So a lot of these ideas are going to be very grim. But like, what if this group, this caravan of Templars or these paladins, they show up. They're like, we're here to preach the word of the God Queen, and everybody in this community is like, great, we love the God Queen. We here's our shrine to her. And then as the Templars or Paladins or whatever I call them start talking, the people here are like, that doesn't sound like what we know, or that doesn't sound right. But then going back to TPK and Terrain's idea, it's the Templars like, when they finish preaching what they came here to say about the God Queen, when they're done, it's like, do you accept our teachings of our shared god, or our shared queen, our shared goddess? If the community says no, or if the congregation says no, then these Templars might have a reputation of unsheathing their chain swords. Or what would a chain sword be in a more like fantasy-esque world? Does anybody have an idea for that? Once we have that idea, we're gonna flip to we're gonna get to a next page, because we are 20 minutes in and literally we are still on the first page. That is fucking crazy. What is wrong with me? What could a chainsaw be? What could a chainsaw be? I don't want something diesel or like powered by like industrial. I'm trying to avoid industrial feelings in my world, which is kind of hard when I'm inspired by so many things from Warhammer 40k. But maybe like, what if it just had like magical barbs? That just looks like a chainsaw though, and that's so weird. I don't know. If anybody has an idea, drop it. But I got nothing, so we're just gonna move on and actually get to a new page. Let's quickly read the introduction. I think this will be one of the few sections I'm gonna just read like word for word, because I think it will set a better context going forward than what I had done previously. So. Introduction. Initiate by the blessing of the Almighty God Emperor of mankind. The tome before you will tell you all you need to know of His most holy Black Templars. Of all the Space Marine chapters, they are the most zealous, the most faithful, and the most uncompromising. Read on and begin your crusade. I love that's so funny. Games Workshop, which is like the Wizards of the Coast. What Wizards of the Coast is to D&D, they are to Warhammer 40k, except they're not quite as bad. Well, they're definitely not as bad. They've gotten a lot better, but their tone and a lot of their marketing and things like that is very like, woohoo, we're playing a game. It's like 5e, very like kid-friendly, colorful fun. Like even like you can just tell from the paint scheme and things, like look how saturated and bright it is. And that's fine. Like I'm into that. But then when you really start getting into the lore and some of the older parts of the game, you're like, whoa, like they have lightened up quite a bit than what than it's actually depicted in the books, like let's go begin your crusade, yippee. It's not quite like that. But few amongst the Adeptus Astartes evoke the same terror in mankind's foes as do the Black Templars. Sworn to oaths of vengeance and purgation, these fanatical Space Marines know nothing of mercy nor forgiveness. They are unswerving. Yeah, that didn't seem like the right word. They're unswerving in their eternal crusade to purge the galaxy of alien races, psychic witches, mutants, deviants, and all others they perceive as threats to the sanctity of the Emperor's realm. The Black Templars' weapons and war gear are as ornate as they are brutal. Their armored forms are festooned with symbolic chains, grotesque memento mori, and the fluttering parchment of Crusader seals. Their sacred faces bear permanent scowls of intolerance and hatred. These are not saviors, not the shining heroes of imperial legend. Rather, they are destroyers, wrathful warrior knights whose blood-drenched wars of faith rage from one end of the Imperium to the other. The Black Templars offer a unique and exciting challenge to collectors. Gamers and painters alike. I might read a little faster here for this part. Few Space Marine chapters diverge so completely from the structures of the Codex Astartes and non-espouse the names. Oh my gosh, then it does get back into cool lore. I'll just read the whole thing in the cool voice then. Few Space Marine chapters diverge so completely from the structures of the Codex Astartes, and none espouse the same fanatical faith in the Emperor as a literal god to be worshipped both on and off the field of battle. The Black Templars' uncompromising zealotry and nomadic crusading nature resonate throughout every aspect of their miniature range. From their eschew of all battle psychers to their employment of specialist formations such as Crusader squads and Sword Brethren, they are a faction whose tabletop presence is unlike any other. Every model in the range radiates aggression and ferocious forward momentum. So ornate and gothic are the Black Templars that they are rendered almost macabre. Does anybody know how to pronounce that word? Macabre? Macabre? It can't be macabre, like Corn on the Cob, Jesus. And provide model painters with an array of exciting textures and details to work on. Let's get that a little more in frame. There we go. Gleaming black and white ceramite mingles with the ancient parchment, flowing tabards and the bleached bones of luckless heretics to give the Black Templars a varied and menacing appearance on the tabletop battlefield. This look of menace is one that the chapter more than backs up with its rules, from potent characters such as the Emperor's Champion to unique army-wide vows and an array of deadly specialist weaponry, not to mention the full might that is the inheritance of all chapters of the Adeptus Astartes. The Black Templars are a tabletop presence not to be trifled with. Read on to learn more of their history and temperament, their unique heraldry, and the rules that will allow you to form your collection of Black Templars into a vengeful crusade of your very own. So cool. That's so badass, yeah. Hopefully, I'm sorry, I just saw someone saying the pronunciation is macabre. Okay, thank you. So it is like macabre, corn on the cob. Interesting. I wouldn't have thought that. But I hope that just from me reading that, you could feel ideas popping into your mind of things that you hadn't thought of ever introducing into your RPG world before, or ever trying, or even thinking could be put into your RPG world before. Doesn't all have to be fantasy. For example, one of the first ideas that jumped out to me was when it said unswerving. That was such an interesting word. I tripped myself up on. I was like, unswerving in their eternal. That seems like I think of a car. But when I read the whole line and it said they're unswerving in their eternal crusade to purge the galaxy, that had me thinking like they just never stop going in a straight line. Essentially, unswerving. That means they just keep going. So that actually reminds me, kind of reminds me of my homebrewed Space Marine army, which their lore was they just went on this crusade and never stopped. Like they just kept going in one direction and had to start scavenging things to keep it going. I did not know that was like in this book, which is really cool about doing this. I'm like having fun doing this stream because I'm reading things I've never read before. Granted, it's the second page, so that doesn't look good for me, but I was more interested in some of the other cooler aspects of the game. But yeah, so what if there was like coming back to the idea, what if you had a group of dwarven paladins who their crusade was that they were going to drill straight down? What if they thought they could drill to hell? And they're just going to keep going down and building out this temple cathedral as they do so until they reach hell, and then they're going to purge it. But because they can't actually, because in the reality of the world per se, they can't get to hell by going down. It's not that type of world. They have to like go to a whole different plane of existence. They don't know that. So, their priest believes that if they just keep going deep enough, they'll find hell. So that's their unswerving nature of these dwarves. And if you want to go find them, no one has seen them in hundreds of years because this tunnel they've been digging is bottomless, potentially. Ooh, that's cool. That's cool. I missed these streams. I missed doing some of these brainstorming ones. We haven't done this in a little while. Hey, don't forget, pay your tithing, drop a like if you wouldn't mind. Just remembered that. All right, let's keep seeing some of the other ideas y'all had, though. Kevin's just saying Aphrodite cheats on Hephaestus with Ares, for example. Yeah, like real life interpersonal conflict. But I don't know if that is interpersonal. Is that what I am imagining? Interpersonal just means between other people. But that type of drama happening between your gods. Sorry, I had a hiccup that I was trying to suppress. Like, I think that's really cool. I don't know if I would necessarily... I don't know if I would have fun playing that out at the table, but it's fun to think about. And it's fun to think, how could that lead to an interesting encounter? Because my players, or I might not have any interest in role-playing or talking through or hearing about what's happening between the gods and their romances. But what we are interested in is how that is affecting the armies that are marching across the battlefield. As the gods are having their love affair and swearing different allegiances to other people, other gods, the armies are also like, what do we do? Whose side are we on? As the kings and queens are like, I love this. I'm with this person now. No, I'm done with this person. I'm gonna go with them. Like, wow, like that's a really cool idea that I never ever would have thought of. If who shared that? Who was that? Kevin. Yeah, Kevin. If you hadn't dropped it in chat, I never would have ever thought of that. So thanks for sharing. Very cool. Kevin also dropped an idea I'm seeing here for maybe how we could make a chain sword work. He said it's a half whip, half sword that is made of chain and able to stiffen up at will. Phrasing. It's like the sword in Pacific Rim, right? What did they call it? Did they just call it sword? Yeah, I think I'm thinking what you said, chain sword, but it's like sword, and the Gypsy Danger like flings out that chain blade that then sets into like one big solid blade. Is that kind of what you're talking about? That's very cool. I could dig that. Twisted Mage said maybe the chainsword could be living metal weapons that literally bite into the Templars' enemies. Oh, living. Interesting. A living... I'm seeing like a big... What's those swordfish? Or not a swordfish, but you know those sharks that have the like barb? You see it all the time. I know everybody knows exactly what I'm talking about because it's in a ton of fantasy things. Whatever that fish is that has all the little teeth on the sides... I'm almost seeing like a druidic order using those, but then if they start moving, what if, you know what? Also, this is a good moment for me to catch myself. I'm trying to literally translate the idea over, and that's not what we came here to do. I just thought of the idea of a chain sword and let that take me to, oh yeah, there are those cool shark things that have the teeth around the edge that maybe that's a big blade that they wield. And these warriors, maybe they're, maybe you could really lean into like Pacific Islander, kind of like ocean sailing type, like Polynesian culture, and you could really like do your research right and make it cool. Or you could just take that one little aesthetic part of the shark teeth, and you want to create like a tribe of, maybe they're like evil druids, and they spin these things around. They spin their chain swords. Well, I'm just gonna use the word chain sword for now. They spin their chain swords around so fast that it literally can cut people in half. That's a little cartoony. So what if instead, okay, when I think of a chain sword, I think of carnage. I think of things getting ripped apart and kind of getting stuck in a gear and then just shattering. So what if these druids could form these a whirlpool, but it was so choked with sharks, or maybe like coral or something, that if you fell into this thing, it was a blender. You just got ground up against the rocks and the sharks and things like that. So that's what the chain sword idea is. It's this shark tooth staff or wand thing that creates this garbage disposal type thing basically in the water. That's where my mind went with that. Very cool idea. Okay, let's see what else we got. Colin said an idea from Gears of War is the chain guns. The gears switched from lances to chainsaws because the skin of the locust was too hard to puncture. The reason why you only sprint with the Oh, I had no idea that that's why the chainsaw existed in that game. I thought it was just made up. That is so cool. Wow. Well, thanks for sharing that piece of lore. Yeah, so how could we adopt that? In a fantasy world where you've got a bunch of monsters that their hide is hard to pierce. What would it mean in a fantasy world if most of your monsters had hides that were too hard for steel to puncture? What would that mean? What would they develop? Because the chainsaw, that's developed from the idea of a bayonet on a gun. But we're talking about a world that doesn't have guns. And you're not running around with your crossbow running into melee combat, right? So no one's affixing a bayonet to a crossbow. Although you could. Actually, why the fuck not? That's really cool. What if you just had a heavy crossbow that had maybe it had like a butcher's axe, like a big butcher's, like the square ones at the end. So if anybody gets too close, you can wield this crossbow like an axe. Because they're big and heavy, right? Crossbows are not like a bow. They're not light. So you could just kind of lug it up and then slam it down as hard as you could. But that's not like a bayonet though. So maybe, well, what if you had a halberd at the end? So you could like spear people, or you could slam it down on them. That would be cool. My man Mako going back saying Sharknado? Yeah, exactly. That's hilarious. Very funny. Crocking 55 or 555 said we are getting ideas from Warhammer 40k. Oh yeah, just sharing with the chat what we're doing. Thank you. TPK Terrain said maybe the sword is an iron elemental. The blade protrudes from the mouth of the creature, which is the cross hit with a leering face. I missed the first word where you said the sword is an iron elemental. Whoa. Wow, an elemental sword. That's really cool. So it could, I'm almost seeing like liquid metal, and it can change into whatever weapon you need to break the hide of the creature. Like if you're going up against something with like an owlbear, you just need a spear or a sword. You can stab into that. But then, you never know if in the cave you walk into, you're going to fight a cave troll, and you're going to want some big, giant, spiked Morningstar club to break their head open, because there's just no way you're going to be able to puncture through their blubber with your sword. That's cool. That makes sense that you would need some sort of liquid metal to adapt to your environments and the foes you're fighting. Maybe that's some sort of like alchemical knightly order. They've learned through their alchemical practices they can instantly liquefy and resolidify silver. Maybe it only works with silver, or some other even rarer metal. It only works with mithril because it's light enough. It's light enough to be melted and instantly harden enough times that it doesn't become brittle and break. That would be cool. Zyrax said, you know what? Actually, also, before we just keep going, let's flip through a couple pages. What do you say? Let's just look at some art real quick and get some ideas from that. Because, Jesus, 36 minutes and 2 pages. No one's ever going to watch this. No one is going to watch this video. Here, you know what? Everybody who's watching, I'm going to do a cold open right now again that I can just edit. I can just edit the beginning opening and then just trim out everything up until right now. So, all right, who's ready? Is everybody ready to jump in and read through the Black Templar Codex? Woo! All right, let's see some other cool things. So this is fucking sick. A flamer pistol. I think it's called an Infernus pistol, I think. What if you had now I'm sure we're gonna have lots of alchemist, artificer, and paladin ideas for this book. So I encourage you all, and I'm kind of challenging you to see, can you come up with ideas for druids? What about for bards? Warlocks, some of those. Well, warlocks might be easy because you've got the chaos gods, but let's not allow me to get stuck in a specific narrow focus. But speaking of that, let's come back to my idea of an alchemical knightly order that has, maybe they have I don't want everything to be a crossbow. What if there was just a knightly order that had learned how to use slings and alchemist fire, vials of alchemist fire, to hurl these slings? And so that's led to this reputation. People think they're magic. People think that these knights can shoot fire from their hands across vast distances. They hurl fire across mountains. That's the legend. That's the myth about these knights. But in actuality, when the players meet them, they're just hurling vials of alchemist fire at them that are going so fast and shattering that it's almost, a trick of the eye. That would be cool. That'd be really cool. What other ideas are y'all getting? When you look at this image, what jumps to mind? I'm going to take 2 ideas, and then we're going to move on to the next page. While I give you a second to type, I'm also going to just point out that candles burning on anything moving, like any vehicle that's chugging along or any guy that's walking, and you have candles flickering and burning on them, dude, that's so badass. That's God, that's such a cool lick. That, I love it, because the way they just can flicker, and they convey the heavy movements of, especially this guy with his ceramite armor as he's taking these steps and shaking the earth. The flames in those candles are, flickering, and the trails of smoke are getting broken. So the trail behind him is even like this trail of carnage in just the smoke. Not let alone, oh my God, guys, that is so cool. This visual of describing this incense coming off of this guy as the carnage. Then to start describing to your players that behind them, as they're stepping into the light, you see they're covered in blood, and they're holding the upper half of a heretic as their chainsaw. I'm just gonna say chainsaw. Whirs to a halt, kind of stops. all the players hear is the sound of distended guts spilling out of this body. The knight drops it, and as it hits the floor, the chainsword revs up, and he comes charging down the hall. That's a cool scene. That would be fun to do. I don't know. That was straight up Warhammer 40k. There was no fantasy RPG aspects there, but still very cool. Other ideas, though, getting dropped into the chat. Twisted Mage said maybe some blade oils, corrosive weapons that slowly make their hides softer. Oh, cool. Yeah, so these knights bathe their blades in oils that allow them to cut through certain things faster or deal more damage. Oh, wow. So it's not that the blade is moving. That's not the aspect of the chainsword we're borrowing. What we're borrowing is that the chainsword gnaws or breaks into things really quickly. So you've got this acidic, acrid sword that when you hit it, it just can gouge out big chunks that melt from the acid. That's really cool. That's really cool. Oh, my man Mako said his favorite part of the Adeptus Astartes is the Iron Halo. Yeah, so this, that probably I would assume is also considered an Iron Halo in 40k, but like, and so is maybe this or this thing up here. Those all probably, here's actually a really good example of what an Iron Halo is. So it's, oh geez, that's very glary. Let's see if I can get it good. That's better. I'm just going to leave that. So a lot of these, it's in the far future. So you've got force fields and laser guns and teleportation and things like that. But it's very Gothic, Christian inspired, obviously. So you've got this halo, and this thing projects a force field around the knight. So when things are shooting at them, they're just, incinerating against this energy field. So what a cool item that would be to give your cleric. Or maybe the high archduke of your paladin's order or something is said to, everybody knows they wear this helmet that looks like an angel's face with a halo that kind of floats over the top of it. But when nobody knows, like, everybody knows they wear that, right? But nobody knows that in battle, that halo can become a moving shield. Or like a, what's it called in the DMG? Sorry, I should make this the 5e DMG. Is it just called a flying shield or a floating shield? Sentinel shield, I think. Is that what it's called? I can't remember. But that idea, that the halo becomes this thing that moves around to deflect blows. Or, I like the idea, honestly, more that it projects a field of impenetrable force around this person. And the only way to defeat them is to get the halo off. And how do you do that? Maybe you have to desecrate or destroy the temple that this halo was created at. There's no way to even fight this dude. When the BBG shows up with their iron halo, and maybe in a fantasy world it's called a, what's a creepy metal that I could use? Are there evil metals? Does anybody have an idea? I just had one. The fallen halo. It's the idea that this thing fell from the sky. It belonged to an angel, but maybe their head was decapitated. Oh, that's the helmet. That's the helmet. It's the decapitated head of a fallen angel that if you wear it, it was forged, or it was cast in gold. Or when it fell, it hardened into solid gold. The head became gold and it crashed down, and you can wear it now as a helmet. And it just protects you with the spirit of this angel that is this invisible force around you. It's your guardian angel. Oh my god. Helm of the guardian angel. Actually, that sounds really stupid, but this is so fun. I'm having the best time. I hope everybody else is having a good time. This is way fun. Shadow Steel. That could be cool, Dead Pine. Yeah, the Shadow Steel. Well, Shadow Steel Halo doesn't sound as good as Iron Halo, does it? Iron Halo just has like a good. Oh, it just sounds good. So maybe we just have to stick with that. All right, let's keep going. Honestly, guys, how do we feel about do we want to read or do we just want to do pictures? I'm kind of feeling like we just want to maybe do pictures, but let's drop a poll. Oh, okay, now I have to find where my Google window was. Hang on. Where did you go? What the? Wait, where the hell did my pop-out chat go? There it is. Okay, sorry, one sec. Let's end the last poll. Start a new poll. Just picks, or do we want to do picks and reading? Or do we want to do picks and Do we want to do like, is there only some type of reading we could do? Like maybe we only read these things. What would you call it? Like call out text maybe? We can do pics plus call out text. Anything? Okay, cool. Start that poll. Let me know what you're thinking. Because this is going really slow, but I'm having so much fun that that doesn't really bother me. So it's more up to you all what you want to do. Picks and call out text 75. Just picks 20. Okay, well, at the very least, we're going to just focus on picks then going forward and then maybe do a little bit of text. Sorry, I just can't quite read the poll from... Man, my vision's gotten a lot worse in the past year, apparently. Okay. Yeah, let's stick with just pictures and some call out text then. So, ooh, this is cool. That's like I think this is called the Crusaders Helm. So that is like this lens that when the Space Marine wears this, they have like a hologram type Tony Stark Iron Man set up in their helmet that they can see everything, which that would be cool. How could we translate that over into an RPG? Like it's almost like a demi-planar space. Ooh, like it's like the Commander's helm. You put on this helmet, maybe it's like a Roman legionary type helmet that has a big tall crest and a big roaring lion helm, or like the cover faceplate type thing. And when you put it on, you get, your head is like in a demi-planar space where you can see all these big maps of the battlefield. And there's a chessboard maybe that appears in front of you that has pawns representing the enemy's army and your army, or the enemy units and your units, or whatever the word you uses. And you can see a top-down view of the battlefield from within your helmet. So you have a huge bonus on perception checks in combat while wearing this helmet. That'd be a cool way to translate that idea over. Or maybe that red visor. It's not just like a touch, it's not a tablet screen like we're maybe envisioning it. What if it was red crystal that when you looked through it, it was like an infrared vision, but for evil creatures. If anything with an evil alignment steps into view of your Cyclops like visor helmet thing, it's like bright red, they're evil. And then it could also do something similar for if they're good. Maybe it has different modes you could like go through. Like it has like it wouldn't be a top button. That's what I'm thinking in my head. In the 40K, well, it might you tap a button and it would shift something, or you could give a voice command. So I guess you could do with its command word, but I don't really love command words. It's a little, I feel like no one actually has the command word. They're just like, oh, I speak the command word, and then the thing happens. It's like, well, why don't we instead just have it, let's just do a cooler description then. Let's just describe something that doesn't require you to make up a word. But maybe you could, maybe it has different faceplates. Maybe that's what it is. The gemstone is set into the plate that you slide out and then put a different one in. So this one that is of the eagle, it can see, that one makes me think of seeing really far away, but we'll just go with the idea it can see an evil creature. But then you take that off and put on the snarling, like Medusa visor, and you can't be petrified or frightened while looking through that gemstone. That's cool. I like that. Kevin says maybe the helm allows people to observe the happenings of other planes of existence, but you can't interact. That's cool. Yeah. In combat, I've never really thought of or seen that type of thing beyond the ethereal or kind of the astral plane and the material plane, right? With the phase spider, that's kind of one of the only creatures, and I guess some hags, I think, have this ability too, that I can think of, that in the same vicinity where the players are, something is shifting in and out between realities. Like you never hear of that with the plane of earth or water, or I guess it's mostly the elemental planes. You don't really hear that about, but you also don't see it with like planes of law or chaos or however your cosmology is. Yeah, that would be once you introduce that item, then you have to start thinking about that more. So that's interesting. Wow, that just gave me an interesting thought, that the items you give out in your RPG game will influence the type of RPG game that you run. I feel like saying that out loud, that should have been obvious, and it probably is obvious to a lot of you, but I've never really thought about how much of an incentive the items are. Wow. Because, yeah, if I was a player and I had this thing that I can now start looking into the ethereal plane, the Fey realm, the whatever, I'm going to want to do that, and I'm going to want to go there. So the GM's going to, wow, yeah, cool. Very, very good insight right there. Thanks for, I can't even keep track of who's pointing all these helpful little things out here, but. All right. Sweet. Let's keep going. That was a cool image. Cool idea. This is a fun one. A three-eyed skull. Where have you seen that before, huh? Yeah, go back on a few of my streams and maybe it'll look familiar. But then down here, I might skip past a few of these because they're kind of, all the images are down at the bottom. Oh no, here's a cool one. So this is the Emperor's Champion. This is a character who basically has a vision from the God Emperor in which he is told, like, you are my chosen warrior. You will see my enemies felled on the battlefield in single combat. And they have this sacred suit of armor and a sacred weapon that they get to take. And one thing that's interesting that is just jumping to my mind right now is in this rule set, you get to equip your models with certain war gear. Kind of like, it's a lot like how you would equip a magic item in D&D, only in this game you're using point values. You have 2,000 points to work with to build your army, right? That's not how it works in D&D. So, but how with this guy, because he has this like sacred oath and he's been given this blessed weapon by the Emperor, he's not allowed to take any other gear. He can't use any other equipment. He has to just use that, which I am thinking now in the context of an RPG would be really cool. What if you offered your cleric or your paladin, or actually, you know what? Let's challenge ourselves to think outside of that forced content or that easy to slip into mindset of knights and grimdark stuff. Let's talk about the bard. What if your bard was offered by their mentor or the bardic college they go to, or, oh, I don't know, a hag? That could be cool. They're offered this instrument that it's not like perfect, but it is the best at a specific thing that maybe the bard is really interested in. I'm having a hard time. Maybe it's just like a fiddle that, well, no, let's just say it's the best lyre. You play this lyre and you crit on 18, 19, 20, and it's a +3. I'm just pulling shit out of my ass to make it sound really good, right? So don't worry about the balance of it. But you've got this thing, this lyre, and the college is like, you can use this. We want to honor you with it, but you may play no other instrument. In fact, you could even, to make it more fantastical, you could say, if your fingers ever strum the string of another instrument, this lyre will lose all of its magics, and they will never come back. And that sets the precedent, and this is cool. This is what world building is, to me at least. It tells the character, oh, wow, so this thing, I'm inheriting this, and that means everybody before me did manage to do it. Everybody that came before me didn't play any other instrument, and they made it with this, but am I going to be able to? I feel like I'm making this sound like a really big deal when it's just like a lyre. An instrument is like, oh my, it's just an instrument. It's just an RPG. But that's what makes it so fun, is that we can get so invested into these little scenes. So, yeah, that if I was that player, then I have this choice to make. Am I going to accept this forever? Or am I going to, potentially reject my destiny because of my own vanity that I want to, but I want to be able to play the bongos. I don't want to be stuck with the lyre, or I want to play the war gong, or what, I don't know, whatever the instrument is. Like, that's cool. And you could apply that to all kinds of other things. All right, let's keep going. This one is awesome. I showed this off, I think, on my community page where I did a little post kind of showing, here's what we're going to talk about and flip through on Sunday. But this is, what did it say? On the killing fields of Grebchek? Kind of looks like a Morkborg word. The light of the Aurelian Shroud is said to have warded off the fury of a volcano cannon, so that Castellan Brechen strode untouched through its fires. Whoa. I didn't know that. I thought this was just like the bones of a saint or something that was paraded around. I think the war gear option, because this is something you can put on your model. Like, they even sell a bit for this that I used. But it gives them like an invulnerable save, which means if you suffer damage, you can roll a dice, and if you roll high enough, you don't suffer that damage. But reading this, seeing that it warded off the fury of a volcano cannon, that has me thinking, what if instead of like, they're going to sacrifice a virgin in the volcano. What if instead of that, it was the bones of a heretic or a martyr? Could be a martyr, a willing sacrifice. That's even more interesting, I think. What if the bones of a willing sacrifice left up at the top of this volcano is the only thing keeping the volcano inside from erupting? Let's get even more specific with it. What if there was a dragon, an ancient red dragon, sleeping in this volcano, in the lava? It's down in there slumbering. And it had a mortal love. When it would take its mortal form, there was this, maybe it was a princess, maybe it was or it could be a simple, merchant, someone who runs a small booth, or they work at the tavern or whatever. That person, because they were mortal, died. And the townsfolk are so afraid that when the dragon wakes up and learns that this person is dead, or maybe this dragon already has woken up a few times, and they've just been so paranoid of it discovering it, they've put that person's bones, they killed them, or when they died, they left them up at the top of this volcano, so that the dragon, when it rears its head up out of the volcano, it smells the bones, or it smells that person's scent, or it can kind of see their vague silhouette, and then it knows they're still here, and it goes to sleep. That would be really cool. A very fun adventure. And what happens if those bones get stolen? That's the question that gets begged when you think about that. This dragon is, the only reason the dragon isn't waking up is because you've got the bones of its lover. Uh-oh, bones are gone. And the dragon wakes up every couple weeks. Or do days. That weeks would be way too long. Every couple days this dragon might wake up. We have no idea. So we need to get these bones back quick. That would be really fun. What ideas did y'all have, though? Sorry, I'm realizing I can't see the bottom 5 most recent messages because I've got, there we go. Josiah says, a barbarian is gifted a sacred boar skin from the details that enabled Misty Step, but he loses control during rage and becomes a were-boar. Oh, that's just like a cool cursed item. I like that. You could have a cult of a god that hasn't been born yet, and the god gives them visions. Whoa, and artifacts that make them sure they're born. An unborn god talking to their... Whoa. Oh, that's like Dune. That's like in... I haven't read Dune, but I saw the second one, and I just saw enough clips to know, he's getting visions, or he's talking to... Is Paul getting it? Paul and his mom, I think, both get them. But they're talking to his future younger sister, who isn't even born yet. She's still in her mother's womb. So, wow, yeah, a god that has yet to be birthed, conjured, created. Maybe it's just adrift out in the stars. Like when your players have this dream and they're talking to this god, they're like adrift in space and they're talking to a nebula. Like a literal, it's so huge and so vastly far away that they just see this big giant eye-shaped galaxy that they're talking to, and that is a god that has yet to form. Because maybe, ooh, this is cool. What if in your fantasy world, gods formed when stars collapsed? When a star crushes in and forms a black hole, that is actually a new god being born. And the wormhole that appears, or you've got the black hole or the black star, maybe then it opens the wormhole or the white star or whatever on the other side, and that's the new god that has been born. That would be really, really cool. Fun ideas. Anything else? Colin Lee said the sword bearer is like a flag bearer. It's all about honoring bravery. They believe in a lot of good or bad luck. Oh yeah, that's true. They are entrusted with this, and they have to carry it around for everybody to see. This is now, it's not just a possession, it is a symbol. That's an interesting way for an NPC to maybe pitch it, or to when you're handing off a magic item, to emphasize and get your players to feel like this isn't just some random, this isn't just a +2 sword. If you want to push the feeling more than that, then you could have this person, have a. You don't have to have the whole history of the weapon written down in your head, but maybe just think of who was the last horrible villain that this sword slew, and who wielded the sword when that happened. And then as the player is getting handed this weapon, the NPC is telling them about this. They're telling them this story and saying, "We now entrust this to you. Will you take it?" Right? Like the player then has that decision that with all the weight that now comes with this item. There aren't just perks. There are not downsides. It doesn't always have to be a curse or a negative, but there are, with great power comes great responsibility. It's essentially that. All right, let's keep going. Let's get through a couple pages. This is High Marshal Helbricht. This is the chapter master of the Black Templars. He's the leader. So honestly, it's a cool model. But I was a little, I don't know. I was a little disappointed when I saw him because he kind of just looked like a normal Black Templar, but with gold armor. There's nothing that crazy special about him. But he's got the cool candles and some sort of iron halo thing, right? Lots of skulls, obviously. Holding this lantern is cool. Does that make me think of anything for D&D? How to make a lantern look badass. Right. He actually makes, like, he makes holding a lantern look so cool, I would want my D&D character to hold a lantern. But with a lantern, it's like either it's magical and it does something really crazy, or it's just a normal lantern and nobody needs it because they have dark vision. So what could it do instead? Does anybody have ideas for, like, what could we do to a lantern to make it cool, but not just a magic item? You know, it's a lantern that can flutter around and it follows you wherever you go. It's a lantern whose light will show you the evil undead, like, or show you spirits. Is there some middle ground we can find where it's not just some ridiculous magic item, it's also not just a boring lantern? Or am I trying to split hairs there? Oh, interesting, a weapon. The mace itself, or the lantern itself, is a weapon or a mace. Yeah, that's cool. What an incense, right? Isn't that... Well, I think they put the incense in something. But you know the thing when they, like... Actually, I'm sure we can find one in this book. What am I talking about? Let's see. We're doing a speed run here, kind of jumping ahead to find the specific image. Then we'll go back and look at some more. Wow, you would think that they would have one, right? Oh, here we go. That's kind of it. Or like this thing, yeah. So see how he's got that? It's like the orb that has the holes in it. Almost looks like a wiffle ball. Or like this guy, he's got the skull with the smoke coming off it, and they kind of swing it, right? Maybe if you could do something like that, where so long as it's lit and the incense is going around, maybe everybody gets a +1 on wisdom saves. I don't know. It is still a little bit of a magic item, but it's only so long as it's lit, as this is lit. But then you can also flail it around and use it to smash heads and stuff. But players need to be within 10 feet of the light or the incense to receive the benefits. And if you're beyond that, you know, still functions with light, but it doesn't give you any sort of magical property. I like that. That could be fun. All right, let's go back a couple. Let's move past Hellbricked. These ones it's pretty old art, but I like some of this older stuff more than the newer stuff, honestly. Like, look how cool that helmet is. That is so cool. It almost looks like a football helmet or something ridiculous. I like this orc down here with this big split eye. That's cool. Does that make me think of anything for... I guess it does. It makes me think a lot of times when my party runs into monsters or things like that, I guess I have a tendency to describe them. Yes, they're gross. I'll describe them in a gross way. Like, they're filthy, they're covered in gore, they've got a big broken horn or something like that. They're missing an eye. That's, you know, sure, we've all described something like that. But I've never really thought about, like, how fucked up a monster is before the party gets there. It's like all of the worst things that have ever happened to the monster happen when the players arrive, and then they kill it. The players haven't really ever shown up and seen something already super, super torn up. Like, really, like a back alleyway cat who's been in, you know, one too many fights kind of vibe to it. Everything's kind of had this sort of polished, almost like it's a fresh mini out of the box, that, like, literally, like, in the game world, it's like, ooh, what a new fun monster to put down on the table. Instead of, this thing is a living, old, gruesome, scarred thing. So that's one way I'll want to maybe think about my monsters going forward. Glad we flipped to this page. This is a dreadnought. It's kind of hard to see because it's in the crease. Let's see if I can get rid of that glare a little bit. That's maybe the best we're going to get. So this square thing right here is a sarcophagus. A super high-tech sarcophagus that a space marine, like this dude, you know, if this guy got his lower half blown off, because he's a space marine, he might not die and can, in fact, be plugged into this thing. And it, now that you're looking at it, right, it's got big old arms, 2 legs, and a bunch of guns. This is meant to walk around and allow this half-dead, half-alive guy to pilot a giant mech suit, essentially. I guess it's not like Pacific Rim mech suit. Like, that's an orc in its hand that he's picking up and throwing around. But that would be really cool for an order of going back to, man, this is kind of over a year call out here, but the Blistered Maidens. What if that was something for that order that we made? Maybe when a maiden, if a paladin or a maiden is, when they're injured in battle beyond the point that they can keep going, their body is put into a ritual Iron Maiden sarcophagus, and then they are burned alive inside of it to the point that either they die and their soul is like trapped inside this sealed Iron Maiden, or maybe like it's more metaphorical. They're burned alive in the sense that they fuse, their skin melts into this sarcophagus, and then they're able to pilot it like a golem. They're like just this big, you could just use an Iron Golem stat block if you're playing 5e or whatever, but the lore of it is so much more than just, this is a big piece of metal that somebody animated. No, there's a thing, there's a person in it that is trapped. I don't know. I think that those ideas, I'm in my head, I'm having this thought of, like, that sounds really cool to me. That's a really, like, but I hope, there was 19 people watching. I'm sure there are people getting value out of this, but I'm having this moment, I'm realizing, I don't want to just keep doing what I was doing before, where all I'm doing is like listing off random ideas, right? But maybe that's valuable. Maybe that's what you guys like. You'll have to let me know in the comments. I'm not going to overthink it right now while I'm on stream. We're just going to keep going. Oh, look at this cool guy charging into battle. Oh, I didn't even notice this the first time. How there was like those spires that are coming down. I think the first time I thought those were stalactites. I think I might have thought he was like running down into a cave. But now I'm looking at it. No, that's either like a spaceship that's like in low orbit, or it's a structure. It's like a Star Wars structure that has a lot of the antennas on the underside too, as well as the top side. Wow, that's cool. And how like how all these antenna kind of coming out of the head of this heretic with the lightning arcing through it. That's cool. Has me thinking of a necromancer that maybe he only can keep his zombies alive because he's kind of in Frankenstein-esque style, put these iron rods like into their neck or into their eye sockets or something, and they're struck by lightning, and that's what keeps them going. So if there were ever to stop being lightning storms, maybe he's been conjuring them at a supernatural pace. Right now there's a lightning storm every other day, whereas there used to be one once a month or something, right? So there's already this weird supernatural aspect there where he's bringing in storms to build his army. But then your players also, if they're smart, might think like, well, we don't have to kill these things. All we have to do is get rid of the spikes that are powering them. If we can pry loose the big iron rod that is set into the undead hill giant that is impossible to kill because this thing is just huge, and no matter how much we stab it, it just doesn't die. You know, if we can just get on top of its head and pry loose this giant iron bar, then the whole thing's dead. That would be awesome. That would be really cool. Let's see. Oh, Twisted Mage, you were just thinking of the Morning Stars. Yeah. Oh, that's what they were called. The Morning Stars, spelled Mourning. Yeah, cool. Josiah said maybe a huge paladin armor that keeps the players alive. The hit points are the physical armor's durability. Maybe reflavored Warforged. Oh, you're going back to the Dreadnought. Yeah, maybe if the players were going to go... I was going to say hell, but I've already shared an idea similar to this. But maybe if they were going to go into the plane of fire... Or what if you wanted level 1, or maybe you have a level 3 party, and you want them to fight a dragon? Instead of bumping them up a bunch of levels, what if you put each player in a mech suit? And just like what Josiah said, you just give the mech suit a bunch of new abilities and hit points, and you don't even have to worry about the player stat block or the player character sheet, because it's so ineffective. Like, it just won't matter in this fight against this dragon. You could just give each character a monster stat block of their own, honestly, and be like, this is your new character for the next little bit. And if your mech dies, like, maybe there's a table they roll on to see if their character is like blown up in the explosion or something. But that would be how I might try using that. That might be how I try and use that. Put some low-level characters in some big artificer mech suits and let them go fight something they wouldn't normally get to fight. That would be awesome. How are we doing on time? 108? Okay, cool. We're on page 23. Yeah, not too bad. Not too bad. Take a little sip here. Josiah said, oh no, sorry, this is, Taj Arch said, I'm designing 40k inspired monsters as you stream. Your orders are very inspirational. Oh, cool. Thanks, Taj Arch. I appreciate that. Or, I don't know. I don't think I'm saying that name right. But I'd love to hear some of the ideas you've got for monsters. That'd be cool. These are Terminators. These are like some heavy infantry type units. But I want to get a little deeper into the book here. I like this image. I showed this off on my community page as well. This is an example of some kind of older Warhammer 40k art, and you can see how much more intricate and gothic and textured it feels. You look at something like this, and this is not a critique of the artist. They're obviously very good at what they do. This is more a critique of the art direction of 40k. Everything is so, I was gonna say smooth, but like clearly like it's chipped and things like that, but it's flat. It's just very flat. This feels like concept art, which I guess is like probably what they were going for. Whereas this is like, this feels like it was pulled out of an old tome. This feels like it's promotional art in a game store. And I don't love that in my book. I like this kind of stuff more. But why I like it a lot as well is because there's so much more little intricate details to pull from. For example, see these things on the back here? Those are the exhaust fumes of his power pack. That's gives his huge giant ceramite space armor all the nuclear power it needs to run. But normally on a normal Space Marine, these are just orbs. They're just like smooth domed spheres. But here they look like those incense lantern things. So the radioactive fumes might spill up out of that or vent kind of up into the air as opposed to shooting out the sides like a jet exhaust or something. So for your artificers or your D&D character or your RPG characters, if you are tinkering with things, if you're in a steampunk setting or anything like that, maybe you can start thinking about what does the actual, what do the plates of the thing that you're building look like? Don't just describe kind of the silhouette of it, like, oh yeah, it looks like a big four-armed gorilla. I'm just thinking of the gorilla, but it's a big four-armed mech with a bull head. And then you only ever really describe its abilities, right? It can shoot lightning from its horns or whatever. That all sounds really cool. But what if you pushed it a little bit further and said the bull's horns have these intricate etchings, or they're like exhaust pipes. You know how they have the punctured holes? They have something kind of like that, but it's like a labyrinth. Ooh, because it's a bull. It's this labyrinth type etchwork up the horns that then, instead of going to a normal point that's super fine, they kind of get flat at the top, and the smoke works its way up these labyrinth horn exhaust fumes and then spills out the top. If I describe that for my character, that's a hell of a lot more memorable than the bull head. That's still cool, but that's surface level. If the iceberg or iceberg meme, that's just not a meme, but that idea that, whatever you're looking at, you're only ever looking at the topmost little bit of the iceberg. That's kind of how I see creativity, or I think of creativity in RPG world building a lot of the same way. When you get that first idea for something that's cool, there's so much more down under the surface to be harvested to make the idea as rich as it can possibly be. And I think that was a good example of kind of working through that process. But then even look right here. This little stamp, this little seal that's holding the ribbon has some sort of image pressed into it. Have you thought about on your character what the buttons on your vest look like? Your bard, right? What do the buttons on your finest silk robes or actors' robes look like? Are they jester masks? Are they the guild? Are they the symbol of the guild that you're a part of? They're little, I'm thinking of the Saints symbol, fleur-de-lis. What is that symbol? I don't know. But I'm thinking of just a cool little decorative crest that is the buttons. That's cool too. All awesome ideas. Let's see. Anything in chat? Going to flood the party with tortured souls of hell. Nice. Nice. Cool. All right, let's keep going a little bit. These are some of the cool... this was a fun page. So these are 4 special abilities that the Black Templars have access to, or that the army can get access to. And they're obviously for a totally different game system than D&D, but I wanted to read through them. I haven't read in advance, so I haven't prepped ideas here, but I wanted to read through each of these and see, are there some cool homebrew mechanics we think could be cool, or that we could come up with based off this idea? So, suffer not the unclean to live. Lead us from death to victory, from falsehood to truth. Lead us from despair to hope, from faith to slaughter. Lead us to his strength in an eternity of war. Let his wrath fill our hearts. Death, war, and blood. In vengeance, serve the Emperor in the name of Dorn. And then the actual rule, I'm realizing, was on a different page. Hold on. Oh, here it is. Suffer not the unclean to live translates to, while this vow is in effect, each time a model in this unit makes a melee attack against a non-vehicle unit, an unmodified hit roll of 6 automatically wounds the target. And then the I forgot. This is a really cool mechanic. There's the vow, which is the good side, and the passion, which is like a downside. Kind of like what we talked about at the beginning of the stream. But so this ability, suffer not the unclean to live, just allows this person to get better at wounding their enemies. So what if you had like what if your paladin had some sort of prayer they could recite? No, let's not do paladin. Let's do druid. What if your druid had some sort of ritual or a chant they could perform that was like, suffer not the I don't want to say polluter because that's too modern of a term, the parasite. That would be cool. Suffer not the parasite to live. And when the druid recites this ancient prayer of purging nature of parasitic creatures or invasive species, then everybody in the vicinity adds 1 to their damage against aberrations. Maybe this druidic order interprets aliens and Xenos to be leeches upon the world, and so they're really good at helping you kill them, and that's how you translate that lore and that ability into something mechanical. That could be cool. Let's do another one. Uphold the honor of the Emperor. While this vow is in effect, models in this unit have a 5+ invulnerable save. Each time an attack is made against this unit, an unmodified wound roll of 1 through 2 for that attack fails, irresponsive of any abilities that the weapon or the model making that attack may have. So that's what 5+ invulnerable save. I mentioned that earlier. In this game, that just means when you take a wound, you roll a d6, and if you get a 5 or higher, you ignore that wound. So what could we do for like a cool kind of ability in RPGs that's something similar, that isn't just the exact same thing? Ooh, this, okay, my mind just had a weird little connected dot with an idea that's really has nothing to do with like healing or ignoring wounds per se, but what if when a character died, like dead, not making death saves, none of that, you're dead. You know how we've all heard the idea of you're in a tavern and the devil comes out and he wants to play a game of cards with you, and if you win, you get your soul back, and if you lose, you go. Yeah, it's a cool idea. I'm kind of using that voice and clearly critiquing it a bit because I think it's like, I guess whenever I've heard that idea, I've never heard it also given with the advice of, don't let this take too long. Don't literally let this one player's death scene become a 15-minute ordeal that the other players have to sit through. So that's why I'm kind of like if you're going to do a game of cards or something, like really that should just be 1 roll or a skill challenge of 3 rolls maybe. Anyways, that concept though of when you die having a chance to come back, what if here you gave any character the ability when they die to attempt a like DC 16, sure, let's go with 16, DC 16 cons or whiz save or con save, and if they pass, they refuse to die. Their spirit hangs on and stays inside their body, and they stabilize. They are not back, but they're not gonna die. But if they fail, they become a ghost. If they fail, their spirit, like gets ripped out of their body by the god of death, who throws it to the ground and damns them for trying to avert his gaze or something like that, trying to cower within this dead vessel, this shell, and you will walk this world for an eternity for this sin, right? That would be a fun, dramatic option to give your players, or a choice to give your players when they die. You could have a chance to come back, and that's great, and a lot of players are going to want to jump on that. But instead of just making it a free, hey, slot pull of the slot machine, let's see if you come back, there's a little bit of risk involved, and that risk is you could become a thing that's going to kill more people here. You're going to become a ghost that could kill your party members or haunt this town. Or if your party survives and has no way of getting you back and they don't want to destroy your ghost, they might have to leave you here, and your ghost will be stuck here forever. Very dramatic. Very, very, very dramatic. All All right, we are coming up on an hour 20. And not gonna lie, my brain is all over the place, feeling very scattered. And that I had to take an anxiety med before I started the stream again, and I'm feeling a little drained and a little lost from that. So I think that the concept and the mission of the stream has been achieved. We flipped through a bunch of pages of a rule book or a system that is not an RPG. It is a tabletop war game, and we found a bunch of inspiration for our own games and looked at how we can find. I hope you saw this as an example of how to find the inspiration. Because we still don't really have any playable content in front of us, right? I didn't give you a rule for this magic item per se that you can print out, but you now have that idea. And you've got this video to go back to and reference. I'm rebuilding my catalog of videos, but you can come back and watch us later and pull that out and use that however you want in your games, in any genre. This can be translated into any genre. It doesn't just have to be gothic science fiction, and that is also one of the main points I wanted to show today. Adapt things, approach it from new directions, think outside the box. All those cliches I think are awesome. And I think I'm gonna hop off for now. So appreciate your time today. Thank you for spending a full hour and 20 with me on this beautiful Sunday. I'm gonna go get a little more work done and look for some videos to go out this week. I'm gonna try what I've been seeing Man Alone do on his channel, which again, go watch his channel. It's awesome. But I'm gonna try streaming to nobody. I'm going to try just kind of recording my own voice or recording myself so I can put out a video that I can edit a little bit if I want to after, and I don't have to be so in my head about knowing that people are watching me on camera. So I'm excited for that. So keep an eye out for some cool videos. Lots of cool stuff over on Patreon. Go sign up. You can follow me for free on there, and then check out my morning ritual blog. But other than that, I think that's it for me. So love you all. Have a great rest of your week, or start to your week. And we say these things in their unholy names. Amen. See you, everybody.